Pay attention to Natasha Cornway leaves her office at 8:02 p.m., umbrella in hand, walking toward the dark parking lot. The 37-year-old communications specialist has no idea she has less than 30 minutes left to live. The parking lot stretches before her like an ocean of shadows, poorly lit and eerily quiet. Nobody could have expected what waits in the darkness. A stalker has been watching, waiting. And what happens next will shock an entire community to its core. It's Wednesday, September 30th, 2009, in Laval, located in the French-Canadian province of Quebec. Natasha has recently moved back to the area where her high school best friend, Christine Laflamme, still lives. The reunion has been bittersweet. Natasha returned from Ottawa 6 months ago when her father fell seriously ill. He passed away, and she stayed to support her grieving mother. But tonight, she's looking forward to the weekend. Her friend Marjolaine is coming to stay at her parents' cottage, and Friday holds special significance. Natasha and her mother have plans to pick up her father's headstone. Finally, some closure. On Thursday evening, October 1st, Natasha works late to make up for taking Friday off. She stays until 8 p.m., finishing up projects in the communications department of Canada's federal prison system. She's a model employee, dedicated and professional. As she packs up her belongings, she exchanges pleasantries with the cleaning staff. Everything seems perfectly normal. She gathers her turquoise shirt, her umbrella, her white bag. She waves goodbye to coworkers, leaving through the front exit. Then she walks alone toward the rear exit and the parking lot beyond. But Natasha never makes it home that night. The next day, Friday, October 2nd, her boyfriend of 4 years, Michel Trottier, makes frantic phone calls. He contacts Christine, his voice stressed and confused. Natasha was supposed to meet her mother that morning. Nobody has seen her. When Christine tells him to check Natasha's workplace, Michel drives there immediately. What he discovers sends chills down his spine. Her car sits in the parking lot, exactly where she left it. But Natasha is nowhere to be found. Within minutes, he's calling 911 to report his girlfriend missing. Detective Patrick Braver from Laval Police Department arrives at the scene. When dealing with a disappearance, the first minutes are crucial. Evidence can disappear. Witnesses might not realize what they saw was important. Christine and Michel meet him at Natasha's workplace, both visibly shaken. The detective asks standard questions. When did they last see her? Could she have run away? Christine answers firmly. Obviously no, this isn't like Natasha at all. Something is terribly wrong. Braver examines Natasha's vehicle carefully. He notices marks near the car, signs of displacement. On the door, there are friction marks, rubbing patterns that suggest a struggle. But inside the car, investigators find nothing particularly alarming. No blood, no obvious signs of violence, just an umbrella on the seat. The same umbrella witnesses saw her carrying the night before. Without a body, without concrete evidence, the investigation faces significant challenges. It's more difficult to deduce what happened when you have so few clues. Detective Braver is joined by Detective Goulet to question Natasha's coworkers. They establish a timeline. Natasha finished work late at night, around 8 p.m. She had no problems at work, no enemies, no suspicious encounters. When you have a good timeline, you know at what hour the trouble starts. But knowing when doesn't tell them what happened or where she is now. Meanwhile, Christine calls Marjolaine to break the devastating news. Natasha has been missing since Thursday night. Marjolaine can barely process the information. It feels unreal, like being trapped in a nightmare. Just 2 days ago, they were making weekend plans. Now her closest friend has vanished without a trace. These kinds of things happen to others, not to people you love. But now the nightmare is real, and Marjolaine rushes to Christine's side. With the first 48 hours critical in missing person cases, Detective Dennis Hogg from Montreal Police Department joins the investigation to assist Laval officers. They need to move fast, they need evidence, and they need the ultimate witness: surveillance cameras. Security footage in this type of case is indispensable. It will be their eyes and ears, helping the investigation make progress. As detectives walk through Natasha's office building, Detective Goulet spots a camera lens staring back at her. And it's not the only one. The building is rigged with 24-hour surveillance throughout. The security officer cues up the footage, and detectives prepare to get their first glimpse of the missing woman. When you look at surveillance camera footage in these situations, you say to yourself, this might be the last footage we have of her alive. They cue the footage to just before 8 p.m. when colleagues said Natasha left work. The camera sits above the exit, pointing directly into her office. Her cubicle is just visible through glass doors, but it's empty. Minutes tick by on the timestamp. Then, there she is. Through the glass doors, they can see Natasha with her coat on, umbrella in hand, preparing to leave. She appears calm, unhurried. A cleaner passes by, they exchange a few words, and the cleaner continues on their way. Approximately 30 seconds later, Natasha reappears from behind her cubicle. She puts her bag on her shoulder, picks up the white bag and umbrella, and walks away from the camera. It's the clearest footage so far of the missing woman. Detectives note every detail. The turquoise shirt she's wearing is a very distinct color. They continue watching to make sure nobody followed her. Nobody does. She leaves completely alone. The security officer cues up the camera covering the elevators on Natasha's floor. Detectives are looking for any contact with other people, whether in her office, in the building, or in the corridors. A crowd of people leave an elevator and walk toward the front exit. Who are these people? Are they workers? Did they have a good reason to be there? As they near the end of the hallway, a door opens. There's Natasha. She waves to the group before making her way toward the rear exit and the parking lot. She's going down a corridor. Nobody is following her. She doesn't seem scared. Nothing appears suspicious at all. Seconds later, Natasha walks out of the building alone, swinging her umbrella, the same umbrella found in her car. Detectives are desperate to know what happens between the office building and her vehicle. They request exterior cameras, but there's a problem. The exterior security footage is still being processed and cannot be viewed yet. For now, they'll have to wait. The next day, Marjolaine arrives at Christine's apartment, and the two friends try to make sense of the impossible. They know Natasha wouldn't just run away without telling anyone. It simply wasn't in her nature. Since she had no enemies, there are no obvious clues about what could have happened. They spend hours praying, crying, being utterly devastated by the uncertainty. Meanwhile, officers are dispatched to businesses and motels adjacent to Natasha's workplace to canvass for CCTV footage. They go around to different establishments, asking about security cameras and recordings from the night of the disappearance. But most of the footage has already been recorded over. It's a huge letdown. However, Detective Hogg has an idea. He obtains hotel registers from nearby motels, collecting information on everyone who rented rooms in the days before and after October 1st. Some people provided driver's license numbers when checking in. Back at the station, analysts start probing this information, looking for any possible leads. With police working feverishly to find Natasha, boyfriend Michel Trottier reaches out to the media to make a public appeal. But his media campaign raises eyebrows among investigators. He's on the news, talking about how much he loves her, how much he misses her. As an experienced investigator knows, when somebody goes missing, the first person you're probably going to look at is the spouse. Detective Hogg doesn't get a good feeling from Michel Trottier. With suspicion mounting, he keeps a close eye on him. Finally, Detectives Goulet and Braver receive good news. The exterior camera at Natasha's workplace is ready to view. To confirm where Natasha parked, they start at the beginning of her workday, cueing the video to 9 a.m. when colleagues said she arrived. The parking lot is extremely large, equivalent to maybe 4 football fields, 2 beside each other. But there's a problem. There are so many cars, and they can't immediately identify hers. Detectives have an idea. They locate Natasha arriving on an interior camera and rewind the footage, hoping to track her back to her vehicle. They see her walking through different corridors, eventually going outside. From a camera situated on top of the building, pointing into the parking lot, they follow her path. Natasha reaches her car. Because she arrived after 9 that morning, she was forced to park in the farthest part of the lot. It's in the same spot detectives found it the following day. Now comes the critical moment. Detectives cue up the exterior footage as Natasha heads to her gray Mazda just after 8 p.m. There's Natasha on the screen. The parking lot is quiet. No one else is around. There aren't more than 7 or 8 actual lighting posts giving any illumination in this massive space. She walks through the area that's lit up, but as she gets closer to her vehicle at the far end, she's walking into complete darkness. It's really frustrating. You're looking at footage knowing something might have happened, could have happened, but you can't see anything in those shadows. Then suddenly, there's a flash. A mysterious flash of light appears exactly where Natasha disappeared into the darkness. Was it a car door opening? Was it a camera flash? It's really difficult to know what kind of flash they're looking at. Detectives keep their eyes fixed on the spot where Natasha's car is parked. But there are no more flashes, no more movement, just complete darkness. They continue looking at the footage after the flash of light. Natasha's car isn't moving. It stays exactly where it is. Then suddenly, at 8:31 p.m., a set of car headlights turn on. A vehicle drives across the parking lot. Having already searched Natasha's car, detectives know it didn't move. This is a different vehicle. But to their surprise, the car doesn't leave the parking lot. Instead, it parks in the opposite corner, just on the edge of the camera frame. Then the lights turn off. What's going on in that car? Why is it just sitting there in the darkness? 20 minutes later, the lights go back on. The vehicle passes through the frame and exits the parking lot. Detectives zoom in on the vehicle. At that point, they know it's not Natasha's car. It's a minivan, a dark minivan. It's a chilling discovery. If they were in third gear before, a fourth gear just kicked in. This supports the theory that Natasha has been abducted. Detectives visit Natasha's mother to share what they've found. It's hard not to get emotional, but they have to let the family know the investigation is in good hands and being treated professionally. Still, they're only human. When they tell Natasha's mother that her daughter may have been taken, it's like a part of her just dies. Christine is there for support as Natasha's mother cries inconsolably, still clinging to hope that her daughter will come home. Back at the station, investigators turn their attention to Michelle Trottier. In these situations, you always look at people closest to the victim. You often check the spouse first. Michelle is brought in for questioning.
Where were you on the night that Natasha disappeared?
I was at home, alone.
They were going to meet after work, but she was working late. Michelle has a weak alibi, but detectives don't have enough evidence to hold him. At this point, Michelle remains a potential suspect, so investigators verify his movements. Later that evening, Detective Hogg visits Michelle's apartment building and reviews surveillance cameras. The building manager cues footage from October 1st. It doesn't take long before Hogg spots a familiar figure. They see Michelle in a hallway near his apartment at around the time Natasha disappeared. This helps eliminate him as a suspect. Michelle Trottier is officially ruled out. 5 days after Natasha disappeared, on the banks of the St. Lawrence River, 16 miles from her workplace, 2 city workers make a tragic discovery. Emergency services receive a call.
Je vais avoir besoin d'une autopatrouille en urgence. À quel endroit? Notre-Dame et 36e avenue. J'ai 2 employés qui sont sur place qui est en train de dîner. Ils viennent de trouver un cadavre.
Workers have found a body. The area where the body was found is pretty desolate, away from populated areas. When Detective Hogg arrives, the scene is carefully documented. Before anything is displaced, everything is videotaped and photographed. Investigators look for evidence, DNA, any clues they can find. The victim is a woman lying on her back. Hogg can see bruising on her face. The fact that she has markings on her wrists and ankles gives him the impression she had been tied up at some point. But it's not a bloody crime scene. There are no weapons found around her. She's wearing a turquoise t-shirt and dress pants. Her feet are bare, no shoes. Based on the clothes and the description they have, Detective Hogg has no doubt. It's Natasha Cornway. Their missing person case has just turned into a homicide investigation. Detectives now have the difficult task of informing Natasha's mother. Christine and Marjolin are at the house when police arrive. There's no easy way to deliver such news. They've found a body in Montreal. When Natasha's mother hears these words, she screams. It's not just any scream. It's an almost heart-wrenching scream, devastating and intense. The sound tears through everyone present. Marjolin has never felt anything so intense coursing through her body. Nothing has ever hurt that much in her entire life. It feels like someone is trying to tear them all apart. Natasha isn't there anymore, and the finality of it crashes down on everyone. A few hours later, Detective Hogg gets preliminary results from the medical examiner. After the autopsy, the pathologist informs him that the cause of death was asphyxiation. Evidence of physical assault was also found on the body. The detective immediately asks about DNA results, emphasizing he needs them as soon as possible. This is now a race against time to catch a perpetrator. As they wait for forensic results, detectives Hogg and Goulet review the exterior camera footage, hoping to track the suspect van. They eventually gain access to a big screen television connected to their computers, providing higher definition and a better view. Their idea is to figure out when the van actually entered the parking lot. They watch the video in reverse, tracking the vehicle's movements backward through time. At 6:36 p.m., they see the suspect vehicle move. They track it back to when it first entered the parking lot. They're convinced they have the right vehicle, isolating its arrival at approximately 6:30 p.m. That's 90 minutes before Natasha leaves her office. But even in daylight, the van's features still aren't clear enough. The camera is too far away to capture the license plate. Maybe if surveillance specialists look at it, they can enhance the image. It's not long before the mystery vehicle is identified. The audiovisual department tries to sharpen the image, zooming in and out, enhancing quality. It's their opinion that the vehicle is a Ford Windstar. Armed with the make and model, detectives start studying cars closest to Natasha's workplace. The Lido Motel is only a few hundred yards away, so investigators scrutinize the guest register, specifically looking at logged vehicles and registrations. People who aren't necessarily suspects might be important witnesses. And then Detective Braver gets a hit. The inquiries around Motel Lido lead them to identify someone named Claude Larouche. He drives the same van as their suspect. Claude Larouche rented a room on October 1st at 2:12 in the afternoon. That's 6 hours before Natasha was abducted on camera. When they run his name through the police database, they make a horrifying discovery. He previously was involved in an abduction case of a young girl. You have a dangerous offender on your hands, and you're going to have to find him and hunt him down. Known serial offender Claude Larouche is now the prime suspect in Natasha Cornway's murder. But officers can't make an arrest without concrete proof. On November 5th, 2009, the pathologist finally calls with results. The DNA samples taken from Natasha's body match Claude Larouche. It's joy. They've got him. 49-year-old Claude Larouche is arrested and brought in for questioning. They have the evidence to arrest him at this point. They have to hurry up and get him off the street before he can hurt anyone else. Search warrants are obtained for his home and van. During the investigation, Larouche is very evasive.
Moi, ce que j'aimerais savoir, par exemple, c'est qu'est-ce que tu connais la raison pour laquelle tu es ici?
Moi, tu m'as été pour un meurtre. C'est moi qui l'ai mourir.
Le meurtre de Mme Cornway, son prénom?
Oui, Nathalie.
Nathalie?
Natasha.
Natasha?
He doesn't give much information about what investigators are looking into. He chooses not to speak coherently, deflecting questions and rambling about cameras and conspiracies. At one point during interrogation, the word hunting comes up. It suggests to detectives that he's making himself out to be some sort of hunter.
Comment c'est que c'est toi? Tu voulais l'attendre, la tuer, la violer?
Si je veux tuer quelqu'un, je vais à la chasse. Si je veux du sexe, je suis où aller.
Even without a confession, detectives now have DNA evidence to charge Larouche with Natasha Cornway's murder. Investigators piece together what they believe happened on October 1st. That day, Natasha arrived at work at approximately 9 a.m. Because of her late arrival, she's forced to park quite far in the parking lot. While she's inside the building working, at 6:30 p.m., Claude Larouche's van enters the parking lot and parks next to Natasha's vehicle. Did he target Natasha specifically? It seems strange that he drove into the parking lot, parked right beside her car, and took the time to wait there for an hour and a half. Natasha was working late that night. Surveillance shows she leaves work around 8 p.m. She calmly walks out of the building, walks into the parking lot, heading slowly toward her vehicle. Then there's the flash. Detectives believe he used a distraction technique to startle Natasha. Was she surprised by a camera flash? That's the moment Claude Larouche emerges from the shadows and unleashes a violent attack. Natasha ends up in his vehicle. Investigators are quite confident she was probably struck there, overpowered quickly. A few minutes later, the vehicle changes its parking spot, moving north in the lot, staying there for 20 minutes. She had marks on her ankles and wrists, which gives investigators the idea she may have been bound during this time. Then he drives out of the parking lot in the direction of the Lido Motel. Witnesses who rented rooms that night heard an argument coming from Larouche's room. The forensic team goes in and finds Natasha's blood on a curtain and also on the floor of that hotel room. As far as where Natasha was attacked, investigators think it probably happened in the hotel room. Claude Larouche then drives to a remote area along the St. Lawrence River where he discards Natasha's lifeless body. Ahead of trial, investigators uncover more damning evidence against Larouche. They find Natasha Cornway's DNA throughout his vehicle. Her blood is found inside the van, in the carpet, creating an undeniable connection between victim and perpetrator. The evidence is overwhelming. The surveillance footage places him at the scene. The DNA proves physical contact. The hotel room shows where the murder occurred. On June 23, 2011, Claude Larouche is found guilty of murdering Natasha Cornway and is sentenced to life in prison. Christine expresses relief that he's behind bars.
I'm so happy that he's behind bars, so he's not going to be able to hurt anybody anymore.
The videotape evidence was crucial because it corroborates the DNA evidence, and the DNA evidence corroborates the video. Together, it's a complete package that sealed Larouche's fate. A decade after Natasha's murder, her friends and family still struggle with their loss. Marjolin misses having Natasha there every time she needs to talk or spend time together. Natasha was a good listener and one of her most trusted confidants. Christine still cries, even after 10 years. Just knowing someone goes that way so suddenly, and knowing someone had that power over another person's life feels fundamentally wrong. That should never be. The case of Natasha Cornway serves as a chilling reminder that danger can lurk anywhere, even in familiar places like workplace parking lots. A criminal waited in the shadows that October night, turning an ordinary commute home into a nightmare. But through meticulous detective work, surveillance analysis, and forensic science, justice was ultimately served. Natasha's memory lives on through the friends and family who loved her, and through the investigators who refused to let her perpetrator escape justice.